But thanks for having a chat with us today, Jake. I know you're probably really busy because the rally's organised tomorrow. I just wanted to ask you a couple of questions. So the police crime and sentencing bill, what threat does that pose for Britain's gypsies and travellers?
It poses the greatest threat to our culture in my lifetime. And there's been a lot of threats in my lifetime. I'm nearly 50 years old. The modern Romani movement started in Britain in 1971, and this is without doubt the biggest threat there has ever been to us within my lifetime. What it does is that it effectively tries to criminalize and eradicate the remaining forms of nomadic life in this country. That was already started in 1994 by the Criminal Justice and Public Order Act. But there are some people that still travel, despite the best intentions of the state. They still travel, often because they want to, often because they have to. They have nowhere to stop. What this does is it brings in a £2,500 fine. The threat of imprisonment and the confiscation of gypsy and traveller homes, of Romani homes, for those people who still live in caravans. Now, that's a small part of our community. It's maybe between 5 to 10% of our community, because the laws have already been extremely successful in eradicating that part of our culture. But it's an important symbolic part of our culture which we cling to. A lot of people I've met over the last couple of weeks, they take their children out in the summer because they want them to know that part of their culture. It is essentially a sledgehammer to that aspect of our culture, which of course survives in Western Europe. It's long been wiped out in Eastern Europe through force, through the Nazis, through the communists who took people's wagons and shot their horses and forced them into social housing schemes. And it's something that we've always resisted. We're very proud to be nomadic and independent and self-reliant. So it is an awful attack on our culture.
I know that you're co-founder of this Drive to Survive campaign. Can you tell me a little bit about that, why it's been set up and what the aim of it is?
Sure. So the Drive to Survive campaign really is about cultural survival in its widest possible sense. Being nomadic is obviously only one part of our culture, but our culture is under threat from all sides, from racism, from hostility, from the fact that our culture is not recognized in most schools or museums, let alone in the kind of the wider curriculum. So it's about cultural survival in its widest possible sense. As nomadic life has been hammered, places like Appleby Fair are increasingly important for people because they are a touchstone of our culture. And what we want to do with Drive to Survive is, rather than just have it kind of squashed into private or council gypsy sites, we want to take the spirit of that culture and we want to take it to the kind of places that it should be, like in Parliament Square, outside our Parliament, onto the streets of Britain, to the Conservative Party conference, which has come for us. They are coming for us. They have decided, as they always do, to divide and conquer. We are responding by uniting and hopefully conquering in return. And as part of that, we are linking up with people like Extinction Rebellion, people like Black Lives Matter, because they have pointed the way in the last couple of years of how you hold our government to account. We don't live in a democracy in Britain. We live in an elected dictatorship. And you saw last night that our elected dictatorship rubber stamped a deeply racist bill, not just against us, but against anybody, actually, and a deeply illiberal, tyrannical bill, which is also curtailing the right to protest in this country. Britain prides itself on being the mother of all democracies. It was always a nonsense, because that was actually ancient Greece in some ways. But now in this bill, as well as targeting us, it targets all protesters, all Extinction Rebellion and Black Lives Matter protesters, anybody who may want to protest about anything in the future. So we are the canary in the coal mine of liberty. So it's really important that we become part of those Black Lives Matter protests, part of Extinction Rebellion. Make no bones about it, they are attempting to extinguish a part of our culture, and we cannot be found wanting. We need to say loud and clear that we are not going quietly into the history books. In fact, we need to say loud and clear that we are not going at all. So the whole point of Drive to Survive is to put an adrenaline shot in the arm of our politics and in our culture, and link up with great allies. And great allies are coming our way. People like Marvina Newton from a Nigerian background, part of Black Lives Matter, fantastic speaker that puts Martin Luther King and Malcolm X to shame. People like the people in Extinction Rebellion, who have really shown leadership in targeting our governments all across the world about climate change. So yeah, that's the point of it, really.
So it's forming solidarity with other networks that have got proven success in highlighting their issues, I guess, and being seen and heard. If anything, I guess our culture can show us is that it's one of resilience and survival. And this Drive to Survive campaign, I guess, is a really clear example of that, and our attempts to continue and to survive. So tomorrow, I've seen a lot on social media that there's the rally that's going to be taking place. What are you expecting from it?
It's really the beginning. It's not the end of a process. It's the beginning of a process. We are hosting the party tomorrow. The party is often hosted by other people, but tomorrow we're hosting the party. It's going to be a Gypsy Roman Traveller space to which we are inviting our allies in Amnesty International, in Liberty, in Friends of the Earth, people from left-wing movements across Britain, to say we need your solidarity, we need your help. It's not a one-way street. We offer it also in return. The campaign to kill the bill will be long, and it will be hard, and it may not be successful. My dad did something similar in 1994. He brought wagons and horses to Parliament Square with my Uncle Fred Barr and Uncle Gordon Boswell. All of those men, sadly, are now dead. So the responsibility falls upon us to remember their name, because they're looking down on us, and they are expecting us to be the next generation that carries our culture forward and passes it on to our children and our grandchildren. So we cannot fail. We have to continue.
I wish you all the best for it, Jake, and I wish I could be there tomorrow, but best of luck.
No problem. You're with us there in spirit. You're there in Berlin. That's where we need you. You're our foreign correspondent.